Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Valdez. With me is Wolf, and this is the SSL Premier League, sponsored by Jin-Air. Of course, we got a bunch of great matches for you tonight. It's going to be 4 best-of-3s between some of the best StarCraft players in Korea.
I haven't commentated StarCraft 2 Premier Leagues since the Kespa Cup, and that was the last time I got to commentate with you. It feels like it's been ages, feels like centuries since I've been able to commentate StarCraft 2, at the top level. I commentated, of course, with Rapid for Challenge on the weekend, but I'm really excited to get back into Star League here, the SSL. There was a big hiatus between the last SSL and this one. That hype trailer came out showing the days since that last Star League finals. Yeah. And, of course, leading up to the teaser, etc. So we're back here finally. We've got a totally new format. And I know that this is broadcast currently on YouTube, and a lot of people don't know about it for that reason. Twitch support is still coming. I know everyone's probably like, oh, when's it coming? It's coming. It is coming soon. TM. But do spread visibility about this tournament, because I know that most people are used to finding StarCraft 2 content on Twitch, but because we are on YouTube today, please do get that link and spread it out there. You can just send the Esports TV link, or you can put the link that leads you to tell people about it.
Yeah, definitely get them out there, because, we got some of the best players in the world coming head-to-head. The first game is going to be Zest versus ByuL. So we will be going into that best-of-3 shortly. Unfortunately, Alive had to, he's busy. I'm not sure exactly with what, but he's not able to come to the studio today. So his matches against Patience will be forfeited. So we'll only be doing 4 best-of-3s tonight.
That's right. So Patience will just get that 2-0 win, which is actually nice for him to take. He's definitely one of the weaker players in Premier. And he has a long history of doing well in Star League specifically, better than any other tournament. So for him, it's nice to pick up the free wins there. So unfortunate for Alive, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions like this. Luckily for him, to go to an important overseas tournament like this, he's only really losing pennant points here. He's not actually losing a big important match. It's not like he's forfeiting himself out of the group. He will still continue to participate in the tournament, but he will, of course, have that unfortunate scar on his record. Just how it goes sometimes. Yeah. But we're back here, man, and it's really exciting. And and because we got Team Salmon back, I've got salmon. I got salmon today.
Yeah, he brought salmon to the studio. That's what happened.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Funny the way that works, It's just you got to bring salmon down when Team Salmon comes together.
Team Salmon's back together. I know we're missing Moonglade.
our little salmon buddies that didn't quite make it as far as we did. They did get caught. We're still alive here, thankfully. But, I know Moonglade's out there. Yeah, he liked my tweet. He's out there. I hope he's watching.
Yeah, I hope he's watching. I miss him so much. But he made it out as well alive. So yes. he's not in the
He's still alive. He's nothing bad happened to Moonglade. He's fine.
So as you can see, we have our Jin-Air themed stage here for SSL Premier, as Jin-Air has been sponsoring StarCraft for a long time. Historically, actually, with the Kespa's 8th team sponsorship, becoming a more full-fledged sponsor in Pro League, then going on to, of course, sponsor all of this. Still the only team left standing in Korea from the Pro League era. So they're also, of course, defending Pro League champions. So Jin-Air's done a lot for esports, StarCraft 2 specifically recently, but also has for a long time sponsored a League of Legends team. So they're a big sponsor here, so do, of course, feel free to shout them out on Twitter. You can, send them messages even in English, and they'll, I'm sure, hear it.
So, first match of the night is going to be Zest versus ByuL. Going head-to-head, then we will jump into Maru versus Stats. Incredible matchup, no doubt. Then we go into Innovation versus Dark. Another great one today. Then we'll finish off the night. It will be SOS versus Solar.
So that is going to be a great set of matches tonight. Of course, the Patience Alive match being a forfeit. But of all the players we have playing today, every single one except Patience has either been a champion of a Premier League or been in a finals of a Premier League.
Poor Patience.
With the exception of Patience, who, by the way, has been to 2 semifinals of this league, the SSL. He's had 2 near finals. So the level of play we're going to be seeing tonight is huge. And this is not old finalists. This is not finals from years ago either. I'm talking about barely recent champions, sometimes 5-time champions like Zest. So we're really looking at a big lineup today. Don't forget that if you are in Seoul, you can come down to the studio and get a ticket. Even if you don't know how to reserve online, you can actually just show up and purchase a ticket live here in the studio.
Yeah, so definitely come on down to the studio if you can. The map list for our first game is going to be Overgrowth, Daybreak, and Whirlwind.
Yes, and as you can see, here's a head-to-head list between these two. You might think, actually, that this is a matchup that's very Zest favored, but actually ByuL has the advantage currently at 12-1, and it's a very close matchup in Legacy of the Void as well at 7-6. ByuL, a GSL finalist who actually failed in that grand finals, and here's, of course, our second matchup, Maru versus Stats. Stats just won the GSL just yesterday. And when you think about Maru, actually, he's a player that people think of as a better player than Stats. He always has more recognition than Stats, but that's because of his Pro League prowess. He's an OSL champion, of course, and he's a Star League champion, the very first here in the SSL, but he's never really won anything outside of that. And Stats is a more recent champion. Pro League doesn't exist anymore. Now, Maru is still a top-tier player, but you have to give the edge to Stats here overall.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm worried about is you mentioned recent champion. That was yesterday, right? So he had a bunch of time to prepare for his matchup against Sue, but how prepared is he going to be to go up against Maru, who's kind of just been sitting back in the Jin Air house, having tons of time to prepare for this one TVP. And, you know, Stats, no doubt, went out to celebrate his win last night as well.
He did. I was there.
He probably didn't practice at all, is what I'm trying to say for this matchup. So.
Yeah, definitely was super prepared for the matchup against Zerg, against Sue last night. And it's really important to keep that in mind because you know, Maru was able to watch the match against Ryung. Ryung knocked Maru out of the GSL, so he probably felt some personal attachment going into that best of 5. But let's focus more on our opening match here. Zest, currently 31-23 in SSL, but I will remind you, he was stomped by Innovation last week, and he did not get out of his GSL group, a group which was considered by most to be the weakest group and a free win for him with Bunny, Keen, and Rogue, and he still fell in 3rd place in the round of 32.
Yeah, our Kingslayer has, you know, arguably been slaying himself, you know, metaphorically, obviously, and it's kind of sad to see. I mean, he's still a very fantastic player, and he did make it into the Premier League here at SSL, but, you know, it doesn't seem like his form is on the level of some of the other guys here. So excited to see if he can face off against ByuL going into this first game.
Absolutely. It's getting tense and heated up here in this studio. 2 top-tier players. Zest, a 5-time champion. ByuL, a GSL finalist. Going head-to-head here. These are all best of 3s. This is a round-robin format, so no one's going home today.
Yeah, no one's going home. So, guys, we're going to jump into game number 1 right now. Zest versus ByuL.
Zest, ByuL, 한지원.
Here in the top right, the yellow Protoss, it is Zest.
And of course his opponent to the bottom left in purple, it is ByuL, GSL and Star League finalist, ended up losing to his teammate Hero in the Season 3 of 2015. At Grand Finals at the Children's Park Stadium. And, you know, Zest has 2 GSL titles. He's got an IEM under his belt and was always consistently been at the top of the Pro League rankings and didn't really have much of a weakness. You know, we talked about this player so much as the only times it really felt like he made mistakes or looked weak was when he underestimated his opponents or tried to cheese players that, you know, he was actually stronger than rather than playing straight up games. But just generally speaking, you think of this player as an all-around strong player with no glaring streaks or weaknesses. You don't think of him as a macro player or a micro-intensive player. You just think of him as good at all aspects of the game, which is why he's a champion, right? 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, what you're basically touching on is how consistent this guy is, and that's what it takes to win so many times is consistency, really. You can't really have an off day. Now, the only time he didn't really have too much consistency was against Creator.
That's true.
In Pro League. He just lost to him multiple times, which is kind of crazy. And has had a little bit of trouble in the PvP matchup in the past.
Jenner fan here.
I think that was his predictions for the matches today. I saw that he predicted Zest for the first one, called him Zupago, which is, you know, back to AlphaGo.
Definitely. There's a lot of lines being drawn between AlphaGo and StarCraft in Korea right now with the announcement that Google and the Alpha project are going to be working with StarCraft specifically as they're one of their next big targets for the AI program. So a lot of people making jokes about players like Flash and Zest as being the Alpha, or the Go in this case. But this looks like it's just going to be a pretty normal start to this game, as we see a few links coming out, link speed, and Zest eventually just getting this wall set up. You know, the map pool, we didn't talk too much about it yesterday. I know you guys touched about it last week. Has a lot of classic maps like Overgrowth, and even Daybreak is in the pool.
Frost.
And these maps are voted on by the pro gamers. So, wow, he actually flew Premier Jenner. He's got that ticket here. That's of course Chester, the guy who does a lot of sports commentary out here, as well as was a host of Star League and Pro League in the past. Thought that was a plane ticket at first, but I see that it's actually just
yeah, it looks
the
like
theme
a plane ticket. I guess that's,
I was like, who flew?
That's the idea.
Who flew Premier Jenner to the finals? There's no airport here. There's airport turbines behind you, but
oh yeah, little bit scary. I almost got sucked into those last time I casted here with Rapid, but I am safe. This salmon is not cooked yet.
Not yet. Just you wait.
But Zest did go for a Nexus first, so that Ling did get in and scouted a little bit.
Yeah.
And we do have the robotics into resonating glaives, into robotics here, and actually 4 more gates on the way with the Warp Prism.
We've seen 5 more. We've seen a lot of this. It looks like it's going to be the 7 variation. We've seen a lot of this on this map with the Warp Prism just coming across, and Glaive Adepts. When you get a Nexus first uncontested, you have a lot of probes. It's even going up to 8 here. 7 additional gateways coming up in total. You know, this is basically all in. You can transition out of it if you do enough damage. He's even going to go DTs with this as well. It's going to give him some extra harass pressure, so he'll be able to harass and pull ByuL apart by harassing his main and his natural, pull the attention away, then hit the third base. The DTs, of course, can obviously become Archons. And look, I mean, this is a very difficult push to deal with. ByuL is responding pretty correctly. He's getting Spores up as well right now. He's getting Roach Speed. He's got an Overseer. So there's a high chance he holds this, but it's still just such a powerful attack in general. I mean, the story of Protoss and Legacy of the Void, especially recently, has just been all about the Adepts.
Yeah, look at this. He's making a lot of drones now. I'm not sure he saw that Warp Prism. Zest actually flew that right in the perfect position. And, you know, there are some Roaches here, but he immediately pulls everything. Very, very scared about this push. We are going to have the next warping coming in right about now. We'll have to see if ByuL can somehow hold off this push. Only 40 probes right now for the Protoss Zest.
Yeah, he needs to just try to buy time here to hold this hatchery. As you mentioned, he used all of his larvae. It's spawning right now at this hatchery. You can see it come out of the third base. He needs to make the next wave of roaches. He only made a few at the beginning. Not enough for a push like this. Super all in from Zest, but now he actually shades into the roaches. Queen's actually giving some support here. He's going to need more units. Using the Warp Prism to micro, but roaches are popping out now from these larvae, and this attack is going to be pushed off for now, and the Prism needs to be moved away, but the Queen's still alive. He's actually just pushing the Prism itself away. Roach Speed is done, and very well held here by ByuL. It looked a little bit scary when he made those drones.
Yeah, he had just barely enough units, and also a bit of a mistake there by Zest to shade everything in onto those roaches. He's now going to try to split up some of his Adepts, actually doesn't commit to that shade. And this push has been held. We have now the Zerg on 3 bases, very, very confidently pushing Zest back, and the Protoss not in the best position here.
Transition points for Zest, I mean, when you try to think about it here, he's going to continue to harass using shades, but this is cost inefficient in an already weakened economy. His third base is gooped by the Overlord currently, so he can't even place a third Nexus. Not that that would really be feasible right now. Does get a few drones here, but you know, just he's spent so much money for nothing. He made a second Prism, so I suppose he's going to continue to harass, but he's not able to accomplish anything here. He's going to try to shade, but ByuL is already prepared with units at home. And he's making Immortals. Perhaps we're going to see a follow-up push, but I just don't feel like the damage was enough to allow that push to finish the game, if you will. ByuL should be able to stabilize.
Yeah, so this is kind of what I was talking about with Zest, especially, you know, the first day he came in, going up against Innovation, showed up in like a little white t-shirt, and he's like, looks very, very relaxed, not super focused. And he comes in here, does kind of a build I would expect from like a low to mid-level Protoss player to come in here and be like, I'm not sure I can beat this guy. I'm just going to try to all-in him and see how it goes, you know. Zest used to be the guy that can like outplay his opponents and do these, you know, crazy, fantastic macro builds and get very far ahead while putting on pressure, but it's not really what we saw here tonight.
Well, like, I mean, this is actually quite nice what he just did with these 2 Adepts. 5 drones for 2 Adepts. Just like that, when he's setting up for this follow-up push with the Immortals, very likely. He's getting charge as well. He's going to clear that Overlord. May take an empty 3rd base with this. And he's killing more drones. You know, that second Prism he made is really paying off as he's able to harass 2 sides here. 9 drones in total. And he actually keeps the worker count fairly even. We'll place that 3rd Nexus now. But yeah, as you were saying, this feels like a build you would do against someone who's been known to play greedy on Overwatch, or excuse me, Overgrowth. Or maybe he plays greedy on Overwatch 2 in his spare time.
Yeah.
But you would do this on like a Pro League best of 1, right? Maybe. But in Premier in a best of 3 like this, I mean, this is only just the first game, but ByuL is massively ahead now. He just re-drones with all the larva and economy he has. He made a macro hatch in his main base. Now he's got the 4th base coming up. And these Prisms will be no more with 8 Mutalisks coming out here. And if he just wants to do that empty 3rd base follow-up push, I feel like ByuL's already got his number, and he's not going to be able to reinforce very well with the Mutas out on the map.
For sure. ByuL is in total control of this game. It's really his game to lose. I feel like this follow-up push is kind of just a bit desperate here from Zest because he doesn't really have much of another option. And we'll see how this goes. ByuL is actually moving out on the map. He is going to kill the Warp Prism, which will definitely slow down this push, but will back up to the defense of his bases.
So, you know, with the snipe on that Prism, it's just that much more difficult to keep track or not keep track of, but he doesn't really have to keep track of Zest push anymore. He's not worried about it. You can even look for, he was looking there for a rallied second Prism, and now he knows, okay, he just simply doesn't have one. All I have to do is hold here. This is still a strong push, but he's got Baneling Seb to defend. The Archon's going to tank quite a bit of that. Good force fields here so far, but this is just an inferior Protoss army.
Yeah, ByuL is going to push on forward here. Here actually come the Mutos from behind, and that should be the end of it. Some cute force fields, but not enough. GG. ByuL takes game number 1.
Pretty straightforward defense there. You know, he pre-made enough roaches, which allowed him to, it's cool how many roaches he made there because it allowed him to just kind of buy time. He pulled the drones immediately at the 3rd base, so he kept a decent economy. And then he also was able to make the roaches after the drones. So the roaches bought him time there to make the additional roaches. He didn't lose too many workers, so he had the economy to continue to make those. And Zest simply put, did an all-in that failed. We did a follow-up push. We've seen this a ton of times. This is like a play you expect from Myungshik, perhaps, where you're looking for that snipe build, or a play from Parting when he was at the best at it. Even if you knew it was coming, it was tough to stop. But unfortunately, man, that was a pretty weak first game from our King Slayer. As you said earlier, it doesn't feel like he's slaying too much right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like it could have done a bit better. You know, I wasn't entirely sure whether or not ByuL knew 100% that push was coming, and he made those roaches, but then he started another round of drones. And I feel like if Zest just played it safer, waited for 1 more or even 2 more warp-ins to fight against the roaches instead of just shading directly upon them, I feel like he would have had a much better chance. He would have delayed much more mining at the 3rd base, maybe even taken it out or gotten it low enough that a follow-up push could have taken it out, but that was not the case in game 1.
You're absolutely right. When we've seen pushes like this all the time, all you can do is kill enough workers or kill that 3rd base, and the Immortal push is just so strong afterwards, the Zerg can't deal with it. As we go into set number 2, our map, I believe, is Daybreak.
It seems like it. So, guys, we are going to be jumping into set number 2 right now.
Zest, ByuL, Match1.
Here we are on Daybreak, and down in the bottom left, the yellow Protoss. He's got to win 2 in a row to take this match. It is Zest.
And of course, his opponent to the top right is ByuL, defending that Adept push, 8 gateway attack very well, and just transitioned as we see Zest going to send out a scouting probe here on Daybreak. Daybreak, another of those maps in the pool that everyone looks at and says, oh, again? Because Daybreak was one of the maps, I feel like in StarCraft 2's life, it may actually be, as we have a StarCraft Remastered fan here, super excited. Talk about that later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remaster D.
Yeah. Haven't heard of that one, but I'm excited for that one too.
Sure. But, you know, Daybreak is one of the maps we might have actually seen most in StarCraft 2 in total games played, because it was considered to be the best and balanced by almost every pro gamer. And so it was never banned. It was always picked, especially in mirror matchups, for example. But it's back here, so people are frustrated. But this is actually how map pools have worked in StarCraft for a long time. No one who watches Brewer goes, oh, I can't believe we're on Fighting Spirit again. Where is it? Was it Neo Circuit Breaker? They put in Neo, but it's the same old Circuit Breaker. No. It's just kind of how it goes. When a game gets enough maps that are good like this, pools get rotated, but the best maps keep coming back. This map wasn't even played in Legacy of the Void. It was a completely different expansion, right? So it's going to play differently in a different version of the game. So I'm happy to see it back myself, personally.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it too. I mean, it's definitely produced some pretty fun games. So definitely pretty cool to see it. I mean, it's not like I dislike a lot of new cool maps coming in as well, but that's why I feel like there should be a mix, right? Some of those old standards that are very balanced, very good, produce good games, but some new maps that we're trying out, seeing if they can also live up to the old map's legacy.
Yeah, it's like Abyssal Reef, for example, as one such new map. So this map obviously has a third base that's fairly far away from the natural, so it makes taking a third base a little bit more difficult. Not going to see ByuL take as an aggressive of a third base probably in this game as he did in the last. And Zest goes over to check just the same. He actually is going to go over and take that third base right now. So we'll take it just as early, despite what I just said. And Zest is going to go over and force the scout here with this Adept Shade. Makes a Twilight Council, and I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is he just going to do the same thing? I've been thinking about this idea for this tournament, because when you get 0-2'd in this tournament, you pick up $200, right? The winner picks up $800. I think it's $700, $300 if you take a 1-2 loss. But I hope Zest doesn't turn into like a Monopoly player where he's like, okay, I'm just going to go to the studio once a week and pass go, pick up $200 and then go home. You know? Just like, oh yeah, I'll just all-in him twice and then pick up my 200 and go home. I was surprised myself that I even made it into Premier. Might as well live off the 200, because that would be a shame for me.
Okay, it's going to be a DT drop instead. This I like more. This obviously is a little bit riskier, so that's a scary thing about it, but it's going to allow him to have map control and then take his third base fairly safely as well. As you see, ByuL does grab a Roach Warren here and a Lair, so he's going to make the same amount of safety roaches, I would imagine, here. The Lair will give him detection for the Dark Shrine. It's a much faster Dark Shrine, so if he doesn't have an Overseer ready, this can do a lot of damage. But this is not going to be a DT drop that kills. It's definitely going to do some damage. How much damage it does is really going to define the mid-game here. As Zest actually makes his wall kind of doubled up here, even with his robo at the front, which could be a problem later. Just kind of like bookmark this thought for as the game goes on, because later on if the Roaches push and he's trying to defend some aggression, may lose his robo, for example, which could be a problem. Okay, safety spore, both games now.
Yeah. The only thing is that he's only made one. I think he only made one in the first game too. As you did mention, he does have the layers, so he can get that Overseer, which he is getting. And let's see where that Warp Prism does want to head. It looks like it's going straight for the main. Mothership Core heading over to the third, perhaps to clear up anything blocking. But that Overlord might get there in time. It looks like it will, to drop that goop. And here are the DTs in the main. There's already an Overseer.
There's 4 DTs, so that was obviously a bit scary for a moment there. But as you said, the Overseer was there. They couldn't even burst any targets. Now he's going to... this is always the awkward double Archon you do when you try to transition out of this. He goes double Prism once more, so he's going to try to split ByuL apart. This looks like a build that would do very well on the ladder, you know, against just a mid-tier GM player. He's just going to try to actually pick off some of these Roaches, then pick up as the shields will regen. Looking for the Overseer even, which is not a bad pick. But the problem still remains here, as you mentioned, that the Overseer is not only still spreading, but was still alive. Finally taken out by an overcharge. Here comes that second Prism, though, and only 2 roaches. If he targets on that Spore, this could do a lot of damage.
He's trying to get on in there, but it looks like he will not commit. There were only 2 roaches there. Surprised he doesn't go a little bit harder on that. You can see he's harassing at the same time into the main, and finally does get this third Nexus down. Slightly delayed, as you did mention, by the Overlord. I was putting down that creep.
Yeah, it's hard to double drop harass, especially with something as technical as DTs, because they do high damage, but they're very squishy. So doing that while also dropping in the third Nexus, perhaps multitasking, didn't realize he could have done more damage there with the DTs, and did lift and get out with them. But ByuL is very fine with all of this, and you know, I'm not gonna fully Todd this situation in terms of supply right now, but like you can see how ByuL has been able to just simply transition to a third base, macro up, get a large army, which can then threaten the third base. And the same reason I talked about the third base for the Zerg being farther away, it's further away for the Pros, it's delayed. The infrastructure isn't as good for Zest. He invested so much into this DT tech and multiple Prisms that accomplished nothing. These 2 Archons damaged some roaches, maybe got a few kills, and he's still trying to force this to work. But ByuL is quite literally sitting pretty right now, not afraid of anything. I mean, he's just going to continue to macro up. He's getting +1 attack now. Hydra Den coming up. And Zest still isn't mining from that third base. He's long distance mining.
The only thing I could really fault ByuL for, if I had to, would maybe just be that he's been almost too safe. He's made like so many units and has delayed a lot of his drone production for quite a bit. Did add that extra macro hatch, so obviously we'll have the extra larva. This is really actually strong, especially with the double warp prism. You can micro those Archons quite well, getting a bit of damage done here.
And with a long distance pickup and Legacy, you're able to make moves like that to send the Archon into the drone line to get the 2 kills. High risk, minimal reward though. Had he messed that up, it would have been very costly. Of course, a player like ByuL, or excuse me, Zest, didn't make any control mistakes there. But he's really looking for damage. Now, as you just said, this pressure has been enough to keep ByuL on his toes. And I think that ByuL was afraid of a follow-up push, just like we saw in the previous set. And this has allowed Zest to take that free third. And of course, if you ever hit a corrosive vial on a warp prism, someone made a mistake. But this allows ByuL, or rather Zest, to continue to harass. We're going to have Baneling speed soon. +1 for those Banelings is almost ready. And here comes a push with a ton of Archons. Baneling's not going to be the choice unit against those. We'll have to get the Zealots, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chargelets in the front, and I think he does have +1 on this attack right now. So it looks like a bit of a timing here out of Zest to hit this fourth base and deny it on this map. Does a very nice job of that. He's now rotating on over to the third base, but I think he saw some of those Banelings and wants to take it a little bit slower.
Yep. Every moment he spends, though, gives ByuL more time to repair. Now, of course, it's 3 base to 3 base. The longer this goes on, it's better for Zest. But it looks like he is just going to abandon the attack altogether. You know, he adds a Templar Archives. He's looking to transition into higher tech here. This drop will get shut down. Actually kills a Baneling for a Zealot there. One Zealot gets bruised. This is a really scary army that Zest has across on the map, but yeah, I was going to say I'd like for him to just take a fourth base of this. It's not going to be easy to hold on to that, but because ByuL is playing so passively, it feels like he kind of just gets away with it. You know, it's rare in a game like this to see the Protoss be the first one to drop a fourth. And that's what we see here. I mean, ByuL has made such a large army, but not pressured with it. He's never tried to do a Ling run by or a Baneling drop in any of the bases.
Yeah, it's one of those games where the supply can be a little bit deceptive, where it's like the Zerg made so many units and a bunch of roaches, and it looks like he's way far ahead if you look at the supplies. But once the Protoss gets Storm, if ByuL lets him get Storm here against this, you know, now very heavy Ling Baneling army, he's not going to be sitting pretty anymore, especially behind on that much tech.
Ooh, and this is I mean, Zest is quite literally playing tennis with ByuL. I mean, he dropped 4 Zealots, and ByuL 1-A'd his entire army back to the main base to defend it. Which means that Zest is just sitting on the other side of the map with his force base going, well, I wasn't sure if I had enough units to defend, but if 4 Zealots makes you 1A everything back, I'm great with that. I'm happy with that. Now he's going to do a Storm drop. This double Warp Prism harass has really paid off for him. throughout this game. Here comes that attack finally now.
He realized that he needs those High Templar. He's like, oh crap, here we go. The Swarm is attacking. Really nice force fields to start off this fight. We'll see how the flank can come from the left side. Big storms coming down. A lot of these Banelings being taken out and running into Archons, but not too many Zealots left over, but it looks like it will be enough here for Zest to push him back.
Yeah, he will hold this push. It was very expensive for him to do so, but because he's had this base mined for so long, I feel like he's not fretting about it at all. And now that with this pressure relieved, he can actually continue to do Warp Prism harass with the Zealots. Needs to not, of course, be wasting Archons like this. But look, if Banelings blow up on Archons and they don't die, those shields regen, and it's trading shields for money. As I believe we saw a big Warp in somewhere. Maybe it's in the top Warp Prism, but he can definitely continue to harass now. Here's that Prism. Okay, so it must have been just to defend. There they are right there, the Zealots. And he's going to push across the map. You can always use that Prism. And you talked earlier about the supplies being deceptive as well. Don't forget, those Archons are very expensive. The quality of units in Zest's army is definitely better than ByuL's. ByuL stayed on this low-tier tech because I think he was expecting a big push, didn't deal with the 4th base, never pressured, and now Zest is going to punish him for it with this better quality army. Higher tech, more expensive, and these Banelings, yes, they will do well against the Zealots, but against Archons, which is his only pure Archon, it's going to not do so well.
Okay, he's caught Zest in a kind of a corner here, but is it enough Banelings? He didn't attack with everything. He actually attacked before those Banelings were ready because he identified that Zest was pushing himself in not such a great area of the map. So ByuL is able to take that fight and push Zest back. But look at this huge warping in the main.
This is what I'm talking about. He's going to pull ByuL into 2 directions. Now, this definitely ended up being a win in that position for ByuL because he got his range units able to outrange those Archons and win the fight. But this Zealot harass is going to pull him back. And it looks like Zest is going to come over here to just try to snipe this 4th base. He's got a ton of high damage units here with even the Immortals, but this is risky. If he loses this army, he's not going to have any backbone left to stand on. He can harass for a long time, but he can't harass forever. And yeah, he decides to pull us back. He saves these key expensive units. He has a 5th base. I think Zest needs to, he can continue to harass with these prisms, of course, but keep the core of his army alive. That expensive army, that high quality army I was just talking about, just got thrashed. And now he needs to stabilize here again on this now 5th base that he's going up to. Or he's going to be in a lot of trouble if he loses that backbone once more.
Trying to slip in the Warp Prism into the main. It's actually going to be taken out, so that's a nice win for ByuL, especially seeing how much trouble he was having 1Aing his entire army into the main multiple times.
Absolutely. This is a really nice peace of mind type pickoff here where you're like, okay, finally. Sometimes you even see players who have Aspire just make 1 muted to deal with this. Now he knows, okay, I'm never going to have to worry about my units coming back. Yeah, this Photon Cannon, that's pretty optimistic. This base is going down. The Photon Cannon's way too late here. This is going to be a nice pick for ByuL.
Glad he doesn't roll his Banelings into the Nexus. We've seen rather Zerg players do that before, just not paying attention, right-clicking, but takes out the Nexus. There is some harass down at ByuL's 5th base, but ByuL, I feel like, is in pretty good control right now, and we do see that finally he's beginning to tech out of his kind of Ling Bane, Roach Ravager, Hydra kind of composition. Here we go again, another fight breaking out.
Yeah, this time Zest units in a better position. The Banelings were not there, but he's going to come for the surround here, and this is a big problem. All those expensive Templar needs to protect them. Good storms here, very well controlled by Zest, and actually probably has still a few storms left over, wants to make sure that they get the most value. And this flank attempt from ByuL actually forces it to kind of be a 2v1 fight against that flank there. So ByuL actually loses the entirety of his army. This harass will eventually be shut down here, but that's the kind of engage that Zest was looking for. I was talking about before. Last time he walked into a line of sight blocker, ByuL had the large kind of range advantage. He had a big arc, and so the Archons didn't actually get to close the distance. And Zest takes a supply lead here, 97 to 68 army supply. And again, the cost of army, the quality of unit is way higher here for Zest. No big tech, no high tech until just now. And Zest moves across. He's got several mortars still at the back. Archon's tanking. Psystorm's going down. And ByuL is in some serious trouble.
Yeah, he doesn't really have all that much left over. The storms are going to be way too much. Another big warp in as Zest takes out the majority of the army. GG, he ties it up 1-1.
This is the kind of game you expect to see from Zest. He goes for a greedy tech opening. Doesn't find a lot of damage, but then just mechanically outplays ByuL by double Warp Prism harass. ByuL made a ton of units, as you said, because he expected perhaps a follow-up aggressive attack. He played too safe. Zest got a 4th base before he did, got it for free. and I use the word free lightly here, but I mean the reason why he was able to get it was because he killed, or because he harassed so much. ByuL felt so trapped in his own base.
Zest gets the achievement for first win. So he played last week as well, did go 0-2 to Innovation, and finally he's able to pick up his first win here in SSL Premier.
Yeah. The Korean there kind of means like half of everything is starting, basically, and that's the idea here. So gets that first win. And I mean, look, this is not the cleanest play out of Zest, especially game one, but I feel like, you know, when we looked at the first game going, why is he all-inning here? I mean, in terms of mechanics, he's got so much to work with. He's so known for that type of play. And in game two, I feel like he really more adequately showcased his skills, and ByuL played too passively. And we're going to go into our third map here, which I don't have on my sheet. You have, it's going to be Whirlwind. Okay, so
yeah.
A bigger map here that we're going into now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting coming into this one. You know, started off with the smallest one of the three, then went into like the medium one, and now we're going into the large map. And well, if you know the patterns make sense, I guess Zest, as the maps get larger, he turns out to win. We'll see if that actually happens here in game three.
I'm really curious to see how ByuL is going to approach dealing with Zest, because Zest has often been insanely aggressive, so he's played really passively.
Yeah, well, we're going to see how it happens here in game number 3, which is going to start right now. Zest versus ByuL, the decider, to see who takes home that $700 and the win tonight.
Zest 주성우 ByuL 한지원.
Down here on the bottom left in the yellow, the Pernos player able to pick up that last win. It is Zest.
And his opponent, ByuL, is spawned to the top right in purple. Cross spawns. So definitely in for a longer one, and I would agree with your sentiment. It seems to be in longer games, Zest winning out. I mean, just in terms of mechanics, right? I don't like to be critical of players making small technical decisions like, you know, he 1-8'd his army into the main base, but it's factual. We watched it happen, and the truth of the matter is when 4 Zealots drop on your main, you need about 5 Roaches and some Queens to deal with that. You do not need every Ravager, every Roach, and every Zergling. And to make mistakes like that probably makes Zest feel like, you know what, he is really freaked out right now in terms of just my harass. I could probably take a 4th base, and he did. No, I feel like perhaps on this larger map, especially once ByuL is able to ascertain that this is cross map, he's probably going to feel less pressured. He's probably going to play a little bit more greedy. So I think we'll see a different game as a result going into this third map.
Yeah, I'd like to see him play more of a later game kind of style, not get too freaked out and make too many Roaches early on. Get greedy, take that 4th base early, and not let Zest get into your head. I like how Zest was able to put on a lot of pressure with the DTs and, you know, get a decently early 3rd base and keep ByuL on his side of the map. So I would like to kind of just see the same thing out of him. I don't want Zest really to mix it up too much here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the idea of some sort of early pressure into then just trying to harass with the double prisms. It's been really effective. You know, in that second game specifically, it was effective throughout the entire game. And I think that's really what won him the game, forced ByuL to play so passively. Perhaps ByuL could have dealt with it better, but either way, it's the same opponent this time. So I think if it's not broken, don't fix it, or whatever that saying is. I
think that's it.
I think we finally figured it out after years of casting together. I think that's actually how you say it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So we'll see. In terms of economy, ByuL was definitely feeling a little bit broke at that late 4th base, unable to hold it. So first Adept's coming out here. This is the slow wind-up of the early game as this probe is going to check for the 3rd base. We'll see the Ling, and even can confirm the drone. May even pylon block here. He's got plenty of money to do so. Let's drop that down. And this is business as usual. There's the Twilight Council. This is what we're all waiting for. The question is, what comes next? Zest is still chrono boosting probes, so there's no tell just yet.
I mean, I suppose if you do want to go against the map itself and go for another rush, just with the Warp Prism, you definitely can. It's not like you're going to be rallying units across the map as the Protoss player, but I don't know. I feel like Zest should be pretty comfortable seeing what happened in game number 2 to say, okay, I can outplay this guy. I mean, you know, I was giving him a little heat earlier on, especially after game 1, but as we said before, right, this guy is a champion, multiple-time champion. Yeah, being the best players in Korea.
I mean, the thing is, it's fair to be critical, especially considering Zest's recent performances have been absolutely weak. His GSL performance was abysmal in terms of who he was playing against, and you know, his performance against Innovation, he looked not so hot. Obviously, Innovation is the hot right now, but look, we saw the Robo go down. He's adding a few gates and a DT shrine, so. Just going to use that Dark Templar pressure into double Warp Prism harass again, it seems like here. It worked wonders for him last game. We'll see if ByuL responds a little bit less conservatively this time. More greed, I feel, would be an adequate response to this, and perhaps a little bit less 1A-esque defense of the double Prism harass. Fourth base here, you know, the fourth base location cleared. He's not going to be taking that right now. He's got a fast Lariat, Roach Warren, just like before. He's going to have the answer to the DTs with the Overseer, and I believe he made that one Spore at the third base once more. He's making one right now. So it's either that's his only one. I feel like he made one before, so either second or first, but either way, he's ready to deal with the DTs. He's got that first set of roaches, and everything's looking very similar once more.
Seems to be the build for ByuL. You know, you see sometimes players when they go into a best of 3 like this against one race, they're like, okay, I got this one solid build, good macro build, it will get me into mid game, and he's done this 3 times in a row. So here we go, the 4 DTs coming in, and the defense here from ByuL. Nice pickups by Zest on the weakened DTs, just doing a little bit of damage to the roaches, nothing too big. Will no doubt, I mean, he might try one more time into the main, but more commonly, we'll probably just morph those into Archons. It looks like ByuL knows about this too and is looking for them, but decides against it and goes back to the third base.
We see that second Prism coming over here now as well, and he's going to do the same 8 DTs into 4 Archon strat. The Spore Crawlers move into perfect position to help deny this Prism. And once more, you know, it's not about how much damage this does if ByuL just then loses control of the game because of this pressure, right? Because now Zest is taking a third base, and ByuL isn't pressuring it. There's no infrastructure to help really defend that either, but he's just so focused on dealing with this heavy aggression that it's really annoying to deal with this. And Zest is not going to win the game or kill a massive amount of drones, but he is going to take map control because of what ByuL is forced to do as a response.
Seems like ByuL wants to mix it up a little bit. He's going to make an earlier Spire this time around. He's like, okay, enough with this Warp Prism BS. I've had enough of your shenanigans. I need to get some mutas out on the map earlier so I can just make sure that I can focus on this, take an earlier 4th base, not be scared of this harass, and not get too far behind the Protoss player. Here come the Archons once again into the main, and 5 roaches is not enough. He's going to need a little bit more. You can see Zest is getting pretty aggressive in here. Lots of weakened roaches.
Yeah, and you know, the response here from ByuL has been a lot better, I feel. Oh, this is just too much. He's going to drop 4. He did this last game as well. But you can see that ByuL actually responds with, you know, less roaches at first, and then Zest is like, okay, well, less roaches, I'm going to bring all 4. He's able to see this with these Overlords, which are super well positioned that Zest cannot clear. And when he sees the second Prism come, that's when he sends all the roaches. Now, he has this massive roach count. Hold that thought, he's going to drop in here again. He has this massive roach count, but he's just, again, unable to attack the third base because he's so focused on defending with all of these. Takes a 4th, though, this time, a lot faster than before. And finally, the mutas going to help shut this Prism down, and he will take control of his bases once more.
I mean, hopefully. You know, you got to catch those Warp Prisms out on the map and make sure that the Archons don't drop out, because 9 mutas against 4 Archons, you guys know who's going to win that fight. And nice move by Zest, actually, knowing the timing of the 4th base. Will come over here with his 4 Archons and attempted to cancel that, and he will do so.
Yep, kills the drone as well. And finally, the mutas emerge. He's going to look for the snipe here. The roaches have to be on point. And actually really well done here by ByuL to make sure no matter what he kills all these Good control by Zest, though, using this little peninsula of air to avoid the roaches and then, just escape. That was basically perfectly executed by both players. I mean, I can't fault either for what just happened there. Zest is able to save half his units as a result, but he got the big win of denying the fourth.
Oh boy, these two Warp Prisms, though. The Archons are forced to drop out, and finally, ByuL will deal with that. Moving across the map is kind of a ragtag group of Protoss units. I don't think that can fight straight up against what ByuL has.
Yeah, and he was supposed to have a Prism with this. If the Prism is here, that he could reinforce this. It's still almost enough to fight against what he has, but it's not quite. ByuL's going to come behind and engage us, trying to target down these Guardian shielded sentries here. Good force fields, but still, the anti-air is the problem. He avoids the Archon damage for the most part. And of course, with the fast regen of the mutas, they're going to come back in with full health pretty soon. And it was a really decent defense. And this time, differently than last time, ByuL can finally put on some aggression. Catches the rallied Prism! That is what he was looking for. And that means his bases are once more safe, because this army can't fight what it has. If it had reinforcements, he would be able to fight ByuL straight up. But because he does not, ByuL feels a lot more comfortable, and he knows he can harass without fear of drops in his main base.
Yeah, it's really fantastic for ByuL right now. You can see how many Stalkers were forced to be built here as well for Zest. Starts Blink, and he's keeping Zest on his side of the map and keeping his own fourth base safe. You can see that Zest has no hope in hell here of making a fourth base anytime soon. And it looks like some of these mutas actually did go down, maybe just one of them.
Yeah, several damaged.
Yeah. ByuL's going for the attack now.
Absolutely. This is what never happened last game. This is what he was never able to do because he didn't have an answer for the Prisms, but the mutas are the answer. Here come the Speedbanes rolling in, hitting almost purely Archons. Now going onto the Stalkers. If he can eliminate this anti-air, the mutas can come clean everything up. Still just such a large Zerg army here. I think Zest may be out of luck here on this third map, Whirlwind. This is just too much. DT is going to come in here to help delay.
Wow, I mean, this is actually going to push ByuL all the way back. He does not have an Overseer with this army. He's making two right now, kind of an oversight at this point in time for a Zerg player. And this will give Zest some breathing room, actually. We'll see if he can hold off the follow-up attack, though.
It's going to be so difficult to do so. He's forced to make Stalkers, like you were mentioning before, which is not going to be useful against this type of army, especially if they're clumped up against Speedbanes. ByuL has that fourth base economy just in minerals. It's giving him enough to reinforce across the map. He's got so much larva, and this looks to be the beginning of the end here. Archon's here, leading the charge, but here comes the rest of that Zerg army, and Zest cannot fight this. Not even half of ByuL's army can't fight it, and this should be it. This should be GG.
Yeah, he's trying to do the fancy micro tricks there. It's not enough. GG. ByuL takes the 2-1.
Well, I feel like, you can draw a really big contrast from Game 2 to Game 3 just by the Spire alone. How much pressure he was able to shut down with the Mutalisks. And I feel like when you do the same kind of build twice in a row like this, if ByuL just turns a light bulb on and says, I mean, if you just have Prisms that are in the air and I shut them down with mutas and I'm not worried about this anymore, then I can attack you even on a much larger map and still deny a fourth base, still put that aggression on. And it was just night and day eliminating those Prisms. So playing the exact same style there, I think backfiring on Zest. His Prism control was really good. His multitasking was on point, but there's just no way to fight mutas with Prisms.
Yeah. The key there for Zest, if he wanted to, kind of take control of that game a little bit more, he kept ByuL on 3 bases for so long with his harass, but if he spotted the Spire and he knew the timing of the mutas and backed off before then, kept all 4 of his Archons alive, kept the 2 Prisms alive, didn't have to remake those, kind of defended and took a 4th base, I feel like he would have been in a much better spot, but he just didn't expect the mutas to come out, and it was really, as you were mentioning, a fantastic response by ByuL.
And the other thing too is that attack he wanted to put on the 3rd base while the 4th was remaking. He was expecting the mutas to go for harass perhaps, and so he flew his Prisms back towards them because he was trying to rally them towards his army. If he has the Archons left, like 2 Archons left and those Prisms to reinforce, maybe he just kills ByuL's 3rd base, maybe he can win that fight.
Well guys, we're going to a commercial break. We'll be back in about a minute and a half with Maru versus Stats.